Hey guys, it's Bad Snacks here. So by popular demand, I am here with some breakdowns from Neat Tape 2, starting with Don't Sleep, which is arguably the hardest track on the tape. I have my Ableton session open here, and you'll notice that it's not the most organized, and that's because I wanted to keep it pretty candid of being like, yeah, this is the actual session that I worked in. Quick backstory on Don't Sleep. I was listening to a lot of bass music, listening to a lot of like Saruda and Monopoly. They're both amazing artists that are LA based. And I know that I get kind of pegged into this like lo-fi hip hop world a lot, and I get that because I make a lot of really chill tunes, but I really like to challenge myself a lot and try other styles of music because I think that the techniques are really cool, especially in bass music. When I wrote this song, I was also thinking about what I wanted my live sets to be like, and I wanted at least one moment in the live set that just felt really cathartic and just like really hard, you know? So that being said, I've only been able to play this track live like 3 or 4 times, but each time I did, oh my god, it was so amazing. It felt so good to do that. And like seeing the audience responses every time was just so much fun. So I've really grown to love this track, although truthfully I didn't know if I was gonna put it on Neat Tape 2, but thanks to my friend, internet boyfriend, who was there to console me many times, it did end up making the tape, and I'm amazed that you guys seem to like it as much as you do. So I'm gonna just try to explain it the best that I can, and hopefully you like it. Let's just get into it. So the way that I started this initially was with this synth patch from a Prophet 8, like the one that I have here. What I did is I made this MIDI pattern on external instrument. So if I open that up, I played it on keys, but then I cleaned it up and added a harmony in MIDI. And what I did is I sent it to my Prophet via external instrument, and I got this. And then I put it through a Keeley Caverns, same exact patch, but just slightly wetter. This one's gonna be sidechain, but this is the wettest. The Keeley Caverns is like a delay reverb combo pedal, so that was kind of fun to experiment with, but that's how it initially started. And then there's the initial drum feel. It starts with these 8-bit bells, which are actually triangle samples, so just thrown through a bit crusher. So if I turn off the redux, it's like this, but with the redux it is and I also threw it through an auto pan because I have no self-control. So the initial drum pattern is this kick, this snare on the offbeat, these open hats, more of those 8-bit bills, and then a hip-hop shaker loop thing. And you can see that I kind of did a combo of doing like MIDI drums for the kick, where I actually played the MIDI stems, and then I put the snares and the open hats on manually. The next thing in the opening, at least, is these vocal layers. And I usually triple out all my takes no matter what I'm doing, whether it's vocals or violins or anything that's kind of like a pad. With organic instruments. And so I wanted this idea of like staggered vocal lines being added to one another. And let's see, I processed it through the OTT, EQ'd it, the Wolf compressor, Comet, which is a really cool reverb plugin by Polyverse, and then sidechaining it, and the Tremolinator comes in later. Yeah, soloed out, sounds like this. So changing the chord every time. And likewise, I not only did vocals, I'll keep those soloed, I also did strings. So same idea, string layers one at a time. All together with the drum stuff and the synths and the strings and the vocals. Drums cut out here.
Don't sleep.
Okay. Before we get ahead of ourselves, then the resonance. So this was literally just me taking my Moog Sub-Fatty and adjusting the frequency knob like crazy. My Sub-Fatty's not with me, but yeah, by itself. It's kind of like a riser that I also put with this riser. So it's like a white noise thing. And then, yeah, and then we have the drop here. The famous Don't Sleep by John Faz, aka Wavecap Johnny on Instagram, who's also like a really dope beat maker in his own right.
Somebody had the nerve to ask me who I am. Let me tell you something. I discovered Jay-Z, okay? And I ain't talking about the rapper. I'm talking about the letters J and Z in the Mandarin alphabet. I'm Wavecap Johnny.
But he's a really good friend, voice actor, and he has this like amazing deep voice. So I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, can you just say this phrase for me?" And he sent it to me remotely, and it was really good. But anyway, yeah. So it sounds like this. Let me just solo this out.
Don't sleep.
So with this one, I just put a little bit of Waves R bass, which I put on a lot of my bass frequencies just to beef them up. It's awesome. And then I also put it through the vocal synth here, the Isotope vocal synth, just on like a vocoder setting. So by itself, this is the bassy one.
Don't sleep.
This is the vocal synth one.
Don't sleep.
It's kind of robotic and fun. It's basically the intro. So we have this whole riser thing.
Don't sleep.
So why don't we start with the bass? So the bass was also done on the Moog Sub-Fatty. Let me solo this out. So it was EQ'd, compressed / sidechained to death. I put the auto filter on it that gives it that kind of wop, wop, wop thing. And as we go along here, it opens up to a lower octave Moog. And I had to freeze it because it just had so many, like I had the sound shifter on it by Waves that brings it down an octave, and then the R bass by Waves and the flanger. And it has these slow attacks because that was literally how I set it on the Sub-Fatty. So there's no auto filter on that one. That was just done manually. But yeah, I find that putting flangers on my basses is just like a really good way to make them sound like meaner. As for the drum feel, so this is the original beatbox. I'm not a beatboxer, but that was the feel that I really wanted, and so I wanted to emulate that. And I have a bunch of things frozen here because it's a lot of processing power. Let me unfreeze this and I'll show you what it looks like. So that's what it looks like. It's like a sine wave at a rate of 1 bar, high depth, and the jitter is what makes it kind of look a little bit schizophrenic. But it sounds like this. And just have it going through a bunch of things. I actually tried to convert my beatboxing to MIDI, and that's where I got the kicks. And then we have the snares, and then we also have this like big 808 snare to give it a lot more space. And then I added in some loops, some like hi-hat loops, and filtered in. and I did my own manual drum fill. I also put a corpus on these 808 snares. I brought up the pitch of the snares in the riser, so if I solo this out, I don't know, I just thought it was like another way to really bring in some energy and without being like too in your face. But yeah, so it comes in with the bass. And then we bring the shaker loop back. And now we're in a 4 on the floor type beat. And I also took sections of the original synth and I just like reversed them or like put them in different places. So and that first of all, that's my sister's cat, Bubba. I literally just like stuck an iPhone recorder in her face and that's what she did. So it was just supposed to be a placeholder, but then I just ended up keeping it because Bubba's cute. The biggest difference in this section is that we have these warm Rhodes chords, which is really just a patch of the Arteria Stage 73 mixed with the RC20 and sidechained a lot. And it kind of sounds like this. And I was able to layer the vocals from the beginning with it. So it sounds like this. And this is all over that 4 on the floor beat. And then the other kind of new element is that I have these two crazy synth violin patches, both using the Enzo and the Hedra, both by Maris. The Enzo is an instrument to synthesizer pedal, and the Hedra is a pitch shift delay pedal. So the first one was done by plucking it and throwing it through a ton of Echo Boy here. So the reason that it has all those glidey things is because on the Hedra there's a setting where you can have it do portamento for every tone, which is crazy, and it's just a lot of fun. And then this one was done with the organelle and the Enzo and the Hedra, and I was just playing chords. You can adjust the delay time so that the delay is basically 0, so that when you play any note, it's just a chord. And I put a ton of Echo Boy and reverb on this, and it kind of sounds like this. So all together. Then I add this bass in here, which is tremolinated, so it's on the 16th notes, but this is a Sound Toys plugin. You can also move the accent over, so it kind of has this little offset. Kind of sounds like this. And then there's a riser, and then the real breakdown are those Rhodes keys mixed with my violins, and I did a whole part here where I automated in some reverb, threw it through the RC20, which gives it that kind of distorted vinyl effect. Also EQ'd it, so there's a dip in the mids, and then I threw isotope on it to make it sound extra skronky and old. It kind of sounds like this and looks like this. And there's that reverb. And then we get into the drop. So then comes the second drop, and it kind of sounds like this.
Don't sleep.
The drum pattern's a little bit half speed at this point, so. I also took out some parts of the bass just to kind of give it a little bit of a different feel. But other than that, it kind of builds up the same way that it did the first time, back with the loops and filtering in and then going into the 4 on the floor. But the biggest difference is this instrument here, this monstrosity. Honestly, this might be one of the things that I'm the proudest of this whole record. I really wanted to get into that kind of sound design, but didn't really know how. But I found this kind of trick. So this is actually made from a clap. So I'm going to find this clap. I'll show you exactly how I did it. So I found the sample, and I'm importing it. And you got to make sure that it's warped for this to work. And you just stretch the sample as far as it'll go. You go to textures and then bring the grain size pretty far down, and you'll get something like this. So that's the essence of it. But I processed it to death by putting a grain delay on it, then the camel crusher, then a flanger, then a multi-band compressor, side-chained it, put a trembolinator on it, put a bunch of tremolinators on it, and then also put a sound shifter on it, so that's what it does, the whoop-wop, that kind of thing. Whoop-wop. It's not what it's called. And then with a bit of reverb to make it sound big. So, yeah, in context. For this last little like party section, I took my violin and I threw it through the Enzo, and I put just a ton of dirt on it with the camel crusher. I duplicated the channel and put it down a 4th, so we got this thing going on, and I also side chained it a bunch, put a tremolinator on it. For some reason, it just like really reminded me of like a mean level of a video game. And then yeah, everything's 4 on the floor, all of the layers are there. I reincorporated the vocals and the violins. I mean, the whole team is here, so yeah, that's the whole outro. Don't sleep. Cool. So I hope that that was entertaining for you and that you guys maybe learned something, or I don't know, got some ideas. But anyway, yeah, again, let me know what other tracks from Neat Tape 2 you might want me to do a review of. And in case you didn't know, I released Neat Tape 2 in April, and it is available on Bandcamp and Spotify and all the places that you can consume music. Like I said, this was one of my favorite tracks to play live, and I'm so heartbroken that I can't play this live for the foreseeable future. So, you know, it is what it is. I have a Twitch channel now. If you would like to go follow that. I do streams 3 times a week. I make new tracks on the spot. I do track breakdowns there. I also do Feedback Fridays, so for those of you who want your music heard, there's a Discord for that. I'll put the link down below. And yeah, I hope to see you over there because I'm having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I hope that all of you guys are doing well. Thank you for watching.